Mike is such a slow and careful speaker, and I will try to be slow. I'm usually very fast, and I have too much I want to say. And it's very embarrassing to speak in front of people you've been around for 7 weeks organizing with. So, all right. So first, I actually want to problematize even thinking about strategy as the first place we're thinking about. I think it's the wrong place to start, and we've been actually engaging in thinking about tactics, strategy, and we've lost the thing that I think we actually should be talking about is what is our ideal and our aspirations, and then we should think about that beyond occupations, and then think about what strategies will get us there, and then tactics. So a strategy is, I love dictionaries, careful plan or a method toward a goal, but what is the goal? Like, it's hollow. It needs to be filled out, and then we need to go backwards and figure out what's the plan to get there, and then tactics are the things we do to implement the plan. So we've actually been going at it wrong. So I want to actually say that I personally found, I was at Occupy Wall Street like 2 days after it started, and I thought it was bizarre and intriguing, and I couldn't leave precisely because I didn't understand it, and it totally shattered how I thought movements begin, which is with a vague goal and almost no plan, by a Facebook page. So to me, what started, I want to kind of talk about what I thought the goals were originally, as vague as they were. It was this intuitive feeling that everything's wrong, and that was about all anyone could tell you. And it's actually funny, but it isn't. It really was what captured it. It was social networks that had been online, and people suddenly were profoundly struck by the fact that they found each other physically as another person that talked back to them. And that was really profound to me, that people have lost that, but that actually was part of what the goal was, and why most of the signs originally were just like love. That I was just struck how many signs said that, and how striking that was that people could actually feel something like that. And moving away from the individual to the collectivity and recognizing there's a sense of a collective. And it was liberal at best. I actually don't even think it was liberal. I think it wasn't even political. It was apolitical, non-political. People didn't even have any political goals. Okay, I have lots of anecdotes. Ask me later about it because I went and talked to a lot of people in the first place. I was totally intrigued by it. Okay, so fast forward a millennium past there, 7 weeks later, 8 weeks later. Implicit in that, and actually almost explicit, which is just totally warming my heart since our post-eviction 2 days ago with Occupy Philly, is there's become this explicitness about what the goals and the plans are, and I really like that you kind of touched backwards back 12 years ago, or whatever, just ancient history. That in 1989, I actually think this begins when you have this like bipolar world, which is, you know, communism or capitalism, and then suddenly you have a unipolar world where capitalism and representative democracy become triumphant, and they've won. And then fast forward to 1984, when a host of movements start emerging, most symbolically the Zapatistas, but movements that are actually saying, no, there's something that is on the, that contrasts that, and that's not a world that's authoritarian, but it's anti-authoritarian or horizontal. So they became this like horizontalist zeitgeist, an idea that things should be from below. And there were all sorts of radical experiments around the world, but there were people that were pretty self-consciously radical. Anarchists, Zapatistas, Marx, you know, socialists from below, all over the world. There's people like me who, and as an anarchist, which is why I didn't understand Occupy Wall Street, because I'm like, you start a movement, you start with the fact that you're a radical, and you move out from there, and everyone's going to get it, because we wave a big banner that says we're anti-capitalist. And it's really startling, and I actually want us to think about that, because that's what I want to get to with our goals. So what explicitly, I think the goals that are emerging now, which were implicit in this everything's wrong, is capitalism. Everything is wrong. And I was really good friends with Murray Bookchin, who was an anti-capitalist from age 6 until 85 when he died. And literally that's remarkable because most of us can barely sustain that for a week. And he used ecology because he thought that was the one thing that would unite everybody. And remarkably, this movement's been kind of lacking in actual ecological sensibilities, which is striking as this great at the same time, because it's going to affect us all. But what this intuitive feeling that is about capitalism is that we're sharing globally, and this is what's captured in the 99%, which I actually hate, capturing the fact that we all are suffering, we're all estranged, we all feel dead. Materially, psychically, culturally, in every single way. And suddenly that shared suffering finds a face when we find each other in the middle of this place called Occupy Wall Street, which is now Occupy Philly, which is now Occupy everywhere. The second part is that people implicitly understand that representative democracy is failing them, that we have a shared sense of disempowerment, insecurity, and a sense of being policed, the things that the state is doing to us now. And so those things are something that everybody thinks is wrong now, but they don't have the language for it, but we do. But we've been actually doing the practice of it. And the third big category that I think has been implicit and it should be a goal is around identity. A shared sense of being unseen, alone, hurt, and traumatized because I'm genderfuck, or I'm queer, or I'm a female, or I'm a person of color, or I have a different body than someone else, or all the other ways we understand ourselves to be different and not seen in the world. A profound sense of identity coming to the forefront of people wanting to share who they are really profoundly. And we've actually, those things I think are now explicit. How much? Oh, we've been doing 6 minutes. Okay. Sorry, I was taking.
You can actually talk a little slower now.
What?
You can talk a little slower.
I'm actually talking slow, Kathy! This is slow for me. All right. I thought I was doing so well. All right. Okay, so I think we actually now, I'm going to actually start at the goal. I think we actually have to ask for social transformation, whole social transformation, which doesn't mean everything should be leveled and start from scratch, but like fundamentally move beyond capitalism, beyond states, beyond identities that are isolated and estranged from each other, and that's actually okay to say now. And I don't know how many of you saw it today, but the Republican governors met a few days ago, and they're problematizing what language that is, and they said capitalism is the #1 word we have to avoid, because people get that capitalism is the problem. And so I think we have to stop being shy about saying that. But I also, on the other hand, I think take seriously as someone who fronts my politics a lot, that I have to be aware that I'm not in a movement where, how do we do that? That's actually a problem we might want to talk about. Okay, so therefore I think we have to switch from that 99% thing, which we're not going to be able to get rid of that stupid, I get that it opens up space, but it actually hides the fact that what we're talking about is systemic things, institutionalized things. You can not like someone because they're a person of color, personally, that's different than systems that put young men of color in prisons in the United States in phenomenal numbers. That's a system, not just that people don't like black males, right? But they may not like black males too, but they're two different things. And power. I never ever hear anyone talking about that word, and that's really striking to me, because it's about power imbalances. So someone last night said when they got out of jail, it was great, everyone in prison was chanting 99, we're the, whatever. Why can I remember that slogan? See how much I hate it. We are the 99%. And everyone, he goes, oh, it's great, even the guards are part of the 99%. I'm like, God, there's a system that creates something called prisons and prison guards, and I would hope we're for the abolition of prisons and prison guards and that role, and that's really a power relationship. Okay, so how to do that in the next 3 minutes as we move from goals to strategy is I think we actually have to reconnect our historical memory to 1989 and 1994 specifically, and reconnect to this world of worlds from below and movements, and remember them and learn from them, because this movement's been really disconnected. Again, I really appreciate that Mark brought it back to Seattle, like the good things, the bad things, but understand there's a continuity, because memory is really important. But look at the differences, one of which I keep alluding to is that suddenly we're with a bunch of people who are the whole spectrum of politics, and I actually think that's why this is the most intriguing thing I've ever been involved in, and why I think we actually can transform the world right now, because suddenly everybody wants to. But damned if I know how to work with those people. We're not good at it. And I personally have been the brunt of that many times. And those people, yeah. But I have to believe that even those people can become part of a different world. Okay. We have to start talking about capitalism, but I think what's been really powerful is I really don't like when everyone says this is a protest. I've never thought of it as a protest. I think what it is, I use this word a lot, is a prefigurative experiment in what it looks like to self-organize, self-govern, self-determine, self-manage, self-discipline. I love that. I love put it in front of everything. But we've been practicing. Those of you that heard Frances Fox Piven speak, it really struck me when she was describing capitalism. She picked up a term that E.P. Thompson used, and Bookstore used again too, and other people. She talked about how we're actually practicing a moral economy versus a moral economy versus an immoral economy, but which gets at capitalism. So I think we have to start saying about this isn't a protest movement, it's a grand experiment in restructuring society around, instead of capitalism, commons, and I love the group of us that make capitalism, not commons banner from the beginning and kept making it because it kept getting lost. Contrast commons and moral economy, not just as a language game, but also actually an experiment. So the things we're doing already, we have to restart thinking, what does it look like to do media or food or medic or etc. in those ways. Direct democracy, more than anything, has been the heart of this and what has really compelled people. And most of us, the GA is meeting right now, most of us don't go. Most of it feel like almost all of us agree it's not working. I myself can't believe that's the #1 category I love, and I just kind of walked away from it, even though I helped actually among the 3 or 4 people that figured out the beginning structure at the very beginning of Occupy Philly, because that was my #1 thing. And it doesn't work because I didn't think this was going to go on 7 weeks. I'm no better than anyone else understanding how we're going to do a direct democracy over the long haul. But damn it, we all have to get back in there and figure that out. And that might not look like a General Assembly. It might look like a host of direct democracy and autonomy and working groups and spokes councils and affinity groups. But we better figure that out, because that's really what's been really compelling about these people. It's not just getting rid of capitalism, because I'm a narco-communist, but I want a world from below, which means we have to self-manage in a way where we don't break into small groups that strategize separately, or etc., unless we're transparent about that. We've been really bad. I think we've all been frustrated, and our frustration has led to us not going and not fighting. Okay, and the last thing is we have to look at a movement that's about dignity instead of identities that are separated from each other, what it looks like to have coexistence of diversity that's substantive, where I can maintain the quirkiness of who I am, and you can see me and you can like parts of me and not like parts, but you really see each other, and then we can figure out ways to coexist with each other. And we've been doing that down there. I've had fights with many of you in this room. Kathy and I had a great fight the first night. We're friends now. And that's what it means to live together in a society where you don't just fight and say fuck you and walk away again. It means Kathy and I sat down and talked about it, worked it out, and worked together. And that's what it's about, right? Because we're not all the same. And that also means solidarity, and I'm glad Mark pointed to that. So I have to stop because we said we would talk for 10 minutes. And I had ideas on what we could do in Philly, but I also really appreciate that Matt said maybe we can look at the more macro. It's like, how do we transform, what would it look like to take the goals of an anti-authoritarian, anti-capitalist, etc., that's not this is always my thing, and that's visionary and experimental, and that front loads the aspirations and the beauty and the values, but in practice, what's that going to look like in Philly? I don't think any of us actually have the ideas, and we've been lazy, and so we're like, oh, every other Occupy is taking over houses, let's just do that. And maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Maybe we should, but I don't even know why we are doing that, because we haven't actually asked why we're doing that, right? So some friends of mine in Toronto had done this campaign called Use It or Lose It, where they wanted to strike at the heart of capitalism, which they understood to be land relationships and housing, and if you didn't use a space, you couldn't keep it and own it, and it was for people just to use, which is kind of the heart of capitalism. It says you can't use it unless you can exchange it for something. I love that campaign. So maybe we want to think about, why are we taking housing just to give people housing is a good thing, but how do we also keep it aiming at social transformation at the same time that has content to it? And I want to just end on saying I agree with Mark. We are so winning. We were really bad at strategizing the city until the last 2 days, and now I think we finally kind of gotten past them playing this game with us, and enough people get that they were playing a game with us now. But we have actually taken up the psychic space everywhere you go. Everyone, Republicans, everyone in the world is talking about occupation. That's a remarkable, remarkable thing. Even if people don't like it, everyone's having to engage with it. That's social power and political power. We've created this space and we can't lose it. And it's not a physical place. It's this space in everyone's head right now. In this historical moment, I can't even think of a movement that's ever done that globally at the same time. That's phenomenal.